right, oh, I know a guy that can do the pledge really well. Bob Tutman. By now, we got, you ready? Yeah, please. Join me in planting our flag. I. United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. All right, Larry Ennis, the insurance broker.
Extraordinary. Oh, now you start the recording. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Larry. All right, so let's jump on inspiration moment, Jed. Come on up.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. And looking for inspiration around this time of year, I was fortunate that I didn't have to look too far because Mother's Day is just around the corner. And I'd first like to remind everyone that Mother's Day is indeed next Sunday, so please mark it on your calendar. Otherwise, it could be inspirational for all the wrong reasons if you forget that date. So remember, Amazon does take a few days to deliver. But on a more serious note, I could not think of a group of people more inspiring than mothers or moms. In my own personal family, I am thankful for all the great mothers that I have influenced my life and made me who I am today. My own mother is one of the most important people in my life. She was always been there to take our calls and support us through life tribulations. To this day, it's odd that we don't talk several times a week. She's truly inspirational for me, and her kindness and support is something that I try and emulate in my family, in my life, as I try and raise my two daughters. My grandmother was also a remarkable mother and grandmother. Growing up, she spoiled us rotten, expressed great love for her children and grandchildren. I always remember she hated to drive and would avoid the freeway at all costs, except for if one of her grandchildren needed her. She would pop right on that freeway and come and get us. She had such a great influence that even though she's now in heaven, her memory lives strongly, as both my sister and I have children named after her. I'm inspired by my lovely wife, who showed incredible strength to bring our two lovely twin daughters into this world, and is constantly working with them to become the best versions of themselves. I'm also inspired thinking back to my great-great-great-grandmother, who had the courage and strength to follow her heart and leave Ireland with her true love, a Protestant, an unpopular choice in her Irish Catholic family, to come to the United States, get married, start a family, and become a mother. Outside my own family, I draw inspiration from Mother Teresa, who acted as a mother to those in the most dire of situations and reminded us that kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. In my own spiritual life, I draw inspiration from Mary, who is proclaimed in the Gospels as a model for all of us. I went to college at the University of Notre Dame, and for those who are unaware, there's a large dome in the middle of campus with a statue of Mary on the top of it. And I can remember when things got tough or I was homesick, her watchful gaze gave me a sense of peace. So as we approach Mother's Day, I truly hope that each one of us can think of her the mothers in your own life that inspired you to become the great people that all of you are, that allowed you all to be sitting in this room full of other wonderful people. Thank you.
Are you wearing that shirt and seconds before the meeting? Thank you, John. It's a attorney with Hopkins Carly, based out of San Jose, in the category of law.
Yeah.
Business law. Oh,
Business law.
yes, because we have our trial attorney over here, Gino. And her land use attorney retired, Pete McDonald. Let me have one more, Jim Goldsmith, and it, you got it. The only human business. Lemonville. You need your. We have another one. Remind me, We gotta give a plug.
James White,
James White, family law, and then your personal injury attorney that will give you a free consultation before he charges, Michael Hoffman. All right, thank you all. So now we'll jump back to the song.
Hello there, fellow Rotarians. Today's song is Rotary We Care. Are you ready? Here we go. Someone needs a helping hand. We care, we care. Could be home or foreign land. We care, we care. Rotary here and everywhere. We work hard and we play fair. We are Rotary through and through, and we love good things to do. We are Rotary, me and you, and we care. Come on, someone needs a helping hand. We care. Could be home or foreign land. We care. Rotary here and everywhere. We work hard and we play fair. We are Rotary through and through, and we love good things to do. We are Rotary, me and you, and we care. We care. Yeah.
Please come.
So we also want to give thanks to Julio Leon, Kelly Alameda, Vicky Walters, loan broker extraordinaire. Here's our reader. What's your category, please? Education, that's right. The principal of Eleanor High School. I knew that. And then Steve Dorn, PE, president-elect, taking treasurer, Kathy High. And then Andrew Evans, quick update, how did the memorial go last Friday?
It went really well. We've had about 250 people in attendance. So it was a very good event. And Brad First also informed me today that to go fund me for the project that I believe we're doing at one of our camps in his honor had reached above goal.
You didn't make the president's walk though, Gary. You just, I'm getting way far behind and all I gotta do. Anybody bored, looking for something to do, call me. All right, so let's go on to announcements.
How about visitors?
Oh,
Rotarians and guests.
thank you. I knew that. All right, visiting Rotarians.
Okay.
There's one.
This table here is full of visiting Rotarians. I have 3 of them to my right, and we have a visitor to the club here to the left. So Reza Atari, stand up from PNR in the category of printing. Matthew Patrick Robron, also known as my other son, is in the category of business development. And Bob Tugna in the category of electrical contractor from the Club of Dublin. Welcome, folks.
I want you to introduce, from the Livermore, Morning Club, Jill Dury, who's also going to be
Governor.
governor,
Governor.
governor-elect in 2024. 24, 25, okay.
Welcome, Joe.
And then we have from the other club, Mono, I don't know Mono's last name, and category of real estate.
Back here, one of our newest Rotarians who's not yet ready to be introduced to the club. He just took a mouthful of food, of course. This is my good friend James White. He's a family law attorney. Say hello, James.
How you doing?
All right, and I thought I saw, oh yeah, over here, Bob is now on guest as Rotarian.
Guest of Rotarian, fellow Rotarians and President Gary, it is my pleasure to introduce Dave Clausen. Many of you have known Dave over the last 30 years. He's been here. He had a store for over 20 years. He's been a CIO for OnePay and many other prestigious jobs. Dave retired in December. And within 3 months, he had to start a new business because he just couldn't stay home. So his new business is business and analytic intelligence, whatever that means, software development. But please welcome Dave. Oh, and he's a prospective member.
So that's AI, Dave. So is that AI? I think that the mandatory film, when I was young and wasn't in schools, we had to watch Jimmy the Cricket and Pinocchio or different stories. And I think the new required film watching should be 2001. And what was his name? Hal.
Here, look more.
All right.
We have one more visitor joining us today, Gary Ingram, a friend of Martinez. We've met him many times at some socials, and I believe we're expecting an application from him soon. Yeah.
All right. So, poker tour, who wants to? Poker guys, where's Bob, Randy? Bill Evans,
All right, guys, when's the poker event? Friday, May 19th. Everything's coming together really well. We need some more players. So who do you know that wants to have a great time and do it for a good cause? You don't have to be a good poker player. It's run by a professional poker company and they kind of help you out if you need some help. I know that the district governor-elect nominee, which is the one after Jill, which is Herb Ritter, he bought 3 spots, so there's a little bit of pressure on you, Jill. Okay. So anyway, anybody has any questions about that, please see Ricky or myself after this meeting. Thank you.
Just the one other, who doesn't know Donna McMillan or knows Donna McMillan? She wrote a book. Brad, do you know the name? It's about the history of the Tri-Valley.
Growing up in Pleasanton in the 50s and 60s.
Growing up in Pleasanton in the 50s and 60s. So she wrote a 400-page book that has a lot of heritage families and unseen photos, and I think it's gonna be housed at the library. She's doing her opening debut on Sunday. Is it at the museum, I believe?
That's all.
At the Best Hall, thank you.
3 to 5 o'clock.
3 to 5. All right, so anybody that's in town and available, that would be really special. All right, any other announcements for the good of the club? John Lumen, and then Andrew's got to give us update.
All right, everybody, this is the weekend, Rotary gives thanks. First, I'd like to say thank you for very much to everybody who's already signed up. We do have about 20 people now, something a little bit less pressure for that. Hopefully the weather will be good. The thing to get out is I will be sending another email out probably tonight. The goal is to have everybody at the senior center by 8 a.m. Sharp, and then we will break into groups. The one thing that I kind of forgot about until this lunch is paper towels and Windex for some window washing. So I'll throw that in my email, but if you have any extra bottles of that at home, you can probably use that. Bring your work gloves. We have some about 50-50 with respect to inside the house, cleaning windows, moving stuff around, and the other half being some weeding, pruning, gardening type stuff. So if it's not too late, if you haven't volunteered yet, please feel free to do that. And be looking for my emails. Thank you very much.
John, one other thing, garbage bags.
Okay, if you have some extra garbage bags, please bring those. And oh, and just be prepared to have some people go in your car. Because we're gonna break up into groups and different people will go to different spots and get the jobs done.
Clean out your car.
Clean out your car or walk over there and get a ride with somebody.
Hey, Sean.
Yes, sir.
Andrew Evans.
Will anything happen after the event?
Yes, we have a reservation at Porky's for some pizza and so everybody will get some free pizzas, but you're gonna have to free beverages. And you have to take non-alcoholic beverages and then you can buy your own beers, all right? And then we should all meet there around there. We should be finishing up of the jobs about 1 o'clock at the latest. Near Porky's. Thank you.
Andrew, come on in. Spirit Run.
So as many of you know, I'm the chair for the Spirit Run this year. Spirit Run's gonna be on October 22nd. Please mark it down in your calendars. I hope to see you all there bright and early. We have been asking around the room for different volunteer positions that you guys have either filled in the past or have kind of suggested to us of stuff you want to take on this year. If you snuck past me and Kathy, which I doubt, please come see us after the meeting, and we'll jot you down for what volunteer positions you guys want to take on. Can't wait to see you all there.
We used to do fining and try to raise money, fundraisers, so if anybody feels really generous or happy, or you won the lottery or didn't win the lottery. We're always looking for funds. Nancy will help you direct it to the WASH project, but we're doing a lot of good around the world, so we need more money to do good. All right, Bill, you want
You want an RI video?
that'd be great.
You knew that.
I knew that.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I'm a member of Rotary, and we're here to figure out if people actually know what Rotary is. Tell me, what is Rotary?
A rotary phone?
No. Chicken.
It's not a rotary phone or a rotisserie chicken.
Tell me, what is Rotary?
Is it when you get a document stamp?
You've been rotarized.
Let me ask you this. What do you think of when you hear Rotary?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. You go and you all over, and then your toilet gets clogged, so then you have to call the rooter guy.
Do you know what Rotary is?
Is it like a club?
Yes, it's like a club. Do you know what kind of club?
I picture a bunch of old stuffy men sitting around smoking cigars, drinking scotch.
They're better for you.
Not wrong. Poker night.
Now let's ask some actual Rotarians what Rotary truly is.
When I first moved to the area, I didn't know a lot of people, and I didn't have many friends. But then, when I joined Rotary, I gained friends, a community, and even a family.
To me, Rotary is about being part of our community. Rotary has contributed over $500,000 to places like our local zoo.
It's things like this playground. There was nothing here before. And now it's something everyone can enjoy.
My favorite part of Rotary is learning something new every week, straight from the top leaders in our community. I go to Rotary feeling stressed out from work and leave feeling energized and empowered.
Rotary is about impact on a local, national, and global scale. Like this ballpark for children with special needs. And helping new Americans learn English in this classroom. Oh yeah, and did I mention that Rotary is working around the world on thousands of projects, such as eradicating polio and providing clean drinking water for millions of people. Rotary is where friends, neighbors, and problem solvers share ideas, join leaders, and take action to create lasting change.
Go Rotary!
To find out more, visit fmrotaryclubs.org.
Julie Lewis, we mentioned you during week here. Are you there?
She didn't want to come on, Gary, because she's not feeling well and wasting topic, she said.
Right, all right. We don't have any announcements. Okay. So, to be announced. All right, Bill, come on down.
It is a wonderful privilege to be the program's chair and interface with all the different people in the community that we get to invite to be speakers. Today, we have our very own member, our speaker, Chief Swing. Would you like to come up and take over the podium with no further introduction needed?
Thanks, Bill. All right, we can roll here. So first order of business, I sat down at a table where someone's glasses were, and these are Ray-Ban P, so they're prescriptions, so they're not gonna do me any good. Is it back there? Yours? Okay, awesome. We'll slide those back. We'll trust everyone to be able to get their fingerprints all over them and mess up your lens and you're ready to wash it when we're done.
You got some DNA,
That's one way to get it. That's one way to get it, right? Skin cells, for sure. All right, well, it's my privilege to be in front of friends today and talk about your police department, some of the work and things that have been happening over the last year. It's not lost on me what's happened in the last couple of weeks in our town, right? We've had a couple homicides, one on Monday and one a couple weeks before that. We recognized Blake Mose earlier and had a vigil on Friday. Prior to that, our last homicide was in March of 2020. Shortly before I arrived, and then prior to that, I understand that it was even longer, about 8 years or so. So, it's not lost the seriousness of those two incidents as well as others that have happened in our town. We'll talk about some crime trends, but certainly know that all of our resources are involved heavily in the investigation of each of those, more specifically the most recent one. We'll do everything we possibly can to bring justice to the victim. And to hold people accountable and help continue to create a feeling of safety here in town in the Pleasanton. So with that, just a quick update on some things that are happening, and I'll look at Ricky for the next slide.
Yes, sir.
Just an overview of the things that are happening in town. You know, if you look at this here, we had about 58,000 incidents or 59,000 incidents in 2022. Very similar to what we had in 2021. One of the differences is that our self-initiated activity is about 4,000 instances fewer, and our calls for service, that's when the community calls us and asks us to come out and help, is about 4,000 incidents higher. Right, so that's a direct relationship to kind of some of the busyness and things that are happening here in Pleasanton. Our emergency response time, which is get there fast, is the same as it was. So even with that increase in calls and so forth, our ability to get to calls on time certainly has not been overly impacted by that. Next slide. And these are, by the way, these are slides I presented to council in March. I took some of those slides and kind of combined a couple presentations to come up with this one. Here's some things that I'm sure are of interest to you. Property crime is up about 15%. And while violent crime rate is down 23%, aggravated assaults are up. Aggravated assault is when someone is injured, seriously injured, or a weapon is used in a physical altercation. The highlighted areas here, you'll see robberies are down significantly, right? We had a trend line about 57, 56, 40, we had 18 robberies in 2022. In our burglary, which is why you see the crime rate down, because there's such a big drop in robberies, and our burglary rate, so residential burglaries are up. And we're seeing that continue in 2023. That's probably one of the more alarming concerns and trends that I see as your police chief. Residential burglaries obviously are typically when someone's not home, but we're seeing some attempted burglaries occur when people are home. And as a region, as a Bay Area region, we're seeing some South American gangs involved in high-end residential burglaries, whether it's Woodside, Hillsborough, Pleasanton, Palo Alto, Atherton, etc. And that's kind of the behind-the-scenes look at that. Now, when talking about all the crime rate, I intentionally this one last. One of the ways we measure our effectiveness is how often or what's our clearance rate? The clearance rate is when we have a person attached to a crime, a suspect, right, who has been typically charged and filed. The western region for the United States is 44% for violent crime. The western region for the United States is 44%. Last year in Pleasanton, your officers and detectives and dispatchers and record staff combined together to put together a 93% clearance rate for violent crime. Yeah, that's some good stuff. That means that it's for these categories here, right? Homicide, rape, aggravated assault, and robbery. So and we're continuing on that trend here in 2023. Yeah, Ricky.
Maybe I missed it. What's the difference between robbery and burglary?
Sure. So robbery and burglary. Robbery is the taking of property by force or fear. So when in the Blake Mose homicide, there was an attempted robbery that turned into a homicide, taking a property from another person by force or fear. Burglary is just entering a residence or a dwelling or a business with the intent to commit theft or any other felony. So you could have a different crime in the house, say a sexual assault. Someone breaks into a house and it's a sexual assault. It could also be a burglary. They enter that house with the intent to commit another felony, which would be a rape.
Chief, is there a trend on where the robberies are taking place? Is it the fairgrounds? Is it?
Yeah, a lot of that is just all over town in terms of location of robberies. Yeah, it's all over, and we're seeing that with most of our crime. Yes, some of it is centered around like some of our larcenies. Obviously, that's centered around your retail centers or Stone Ridge, Walmart, etc. But most of your just general crimes are throughout the city. Next slide. So there's a conversation a couple of years ago about school resource officers and the role of SROs in our community. And what I want to highlight is, we had 4 custodial arrests of students at PUSD schools. Our SROs had other arrests, like an adult that was stealing bikes coming onto campus, a grown adult non-student, and stealing bikes from the bike area of school. And through our use of technology, license plate reader cameras, we knew he was in town, and we're able to arrest that individual. So our SROs are making arrests that are conducting enforcement actions and safety measures that are not just related to school, or students at the school, but also those that come on campus unnecessarily. Our diversion program is used a lot, but this is what I want to touch on the most right here. When I started here back 3 years ago, which by the way, it's been 3 years. I joined the city of Pleasanton in the department in April of 2020. Came on board during the pandemic in late May, and I noticed right away that we had a high number of mental health holds throughout the community, and many of those were occurring in our schools. In fact, we had on average about 48 mental health holds a year. And so, with council's direction and community's support, we implemented our new crisis response program, right? Or the alternate response unit. And last year in 2022, we went from 48 pre-pandemic to 9. And why is that significant? You might be wondering, why does that matter to us? Well, that's 30 fewer kids that are exposed to the mental health treatment program and placed on a hold and get taken from school in the ambulance, brought to Willow Rock. Willow Rock have the stigma, if you would, of going through that mental health evaluation program, and that's a big win for our community. It's a big win for our young people, and I think it really helps us to move the needle in providing relevant, adequate, and timely care when folks need it most. So, thanks. Next slide. So, speaking of our alternate response unit, we have about a 50% overall reduction in our 5150s. We diverted, this is over a 6-month period. So that's like 380 calls from patrol, and 280 calls were responded to in partnership. We did a community survey as a city about 2 years ago, and crisis response was the overwhelming #1 concern that our community had. And so through the alternate response program, we have really made some huge strides there. And you'll see that our clinicians only came on board in January 2023. So the differences that we made last year in 2022 without the addition of our new clinicians. Today, we have 2 mental health clinicians that respond to 2 police officers who are in an unmarked car and plain clothes to help respond in a more timely and also a more effective way to those that are in crisis with mental health. They also work with our unhoused population in connecting folks with services there. Next slide. Yeah.
Chief, how many folks are in that department are responsible for that now?
And we have 2 officers and 2 clinicians, and then a supervisor as well. So technically 5, but really 4 that are out there doing the work every day. And they're there from probably Monday through Thursday right now, and kind of have a split schedule as far as time of day. So in March of this year, or I should say actually in early 2023, we conducted a survey to find out where our community was in terms of how safe they felt in Pleasanton and their level of trust and satisfaction with the police department. And I want to share this with you because these results were, I expected them to be high, candidly, but I know that our community supports the police department. I know our community feels safe, but I think you'll be surprised as well about how strongly and our community feels about their police department. Excellent. So really quickly here, residents, visitors, businesses. This is done by a third-party company, Godby Research. So this is a statistically valid sample. This isn't a social media Facebook survey, right? It gets forwarded to your friends and everyone fills it out, and maybe the card or the deck gets stacked a little bit. This is done by a reputable third-party company. 95% of residents feel safe in Pleasanton. This is a margin of error about 3.8%. Visitors 96, businesses 98%. And what you see here is very safe and somewhat safe. So the combined poll there is 95%. This question was asked about how people feel in Alameda County as a whole, and from the same sample size. And you can imagine people feel safer in Pleasanton than they do in the county as an aggregate. Our business community, again, 98.4%. Next slide, Ricky. Satisfaction with the police department's job performance, again, 82.7% visitors, 70%, and it's hard to understand with visitors because they might be conflating their local police department with the police department in Pleasanton. It's a large number there that are unknown, and businesses also at about 93%. So clearly our business community has the most satisfaction with the work that their department is doing. Next slide. Trustworthiness, also high. Our consultants said these are some of the highest numbers you've seen. You know, well, 84 is a lot less than 95 in terms of feeling of safety. It's still up there. 84.2% of our residents trust the police department. 92% of our businesses trust the police department. Why is that important? Right, we have to be seen as legitimate in the eyes of our community in order to effectively partner, right, with our community to help keep folks safe. And so 84.2%. Now, if there was one group that was lower than the others, what age would you think that is? Right, teenagers. The 18 to 29 group has had less trust with towards the police department than other age groups, all in 10-year bands. So what does that mean? Well, it means that there's a group that we need to target our resources and be strategic in who we're really looking to outreach to and build trust. It's the 18 to 29-year-old group. So that's just, it's, you know, we saw that during our listening sessions after the murder of George Floyd, where the group that was the most vocal in a lot of those listening sessions were the younger population of Pleasanton. Treatment of officers, regardless of personal characteristics, or regardless of kind of demographic stuff. Again, 62%, 54 for our visitors, and 77 for our businesses. So again, all very, very high remarks.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So going back to the slide before this slide where it was talking about trust, was that trust of Pleasanton police officers or just trust of police officers in general?
Yeah, the question was asked, Trust, how would you rate the Pleasanton Police Department? However, I think it would be natural for a visitor who is from Livermore. By the way, our visitors are all Tri-Valley, right? Livermore, Dublin, Danville, San Ramon. And so they might be, rating, thinking about their own police department and policing in general. So we can't really distill that down much more than that, but that's a great question, a concern that we have as well. Yeah. So again, high marks there. I'm keeping the presentation part of it short, because there's a lot of questions that people have, and I appreciate everyone asking questions along the way. The last slide there is of a department picture that we took in November of this year. What you can't see there is everyone's frozen toes, because it was like November. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning with an inspection and a lineup. And then we did this, and it was during one of those cold spells that we had before all the rain came. And I think by the end of that day, we didn't have any frostbite claims. Fortunately, we were able to avoid those, but we were all certainly pretty darn cold at that point in time. But yeah, this is who we are. Yeah, Ricky.
So what do you do with the officers that are on duty? Do you shop them in? Do you photograph them in the picture, or what do you do?
No, we actually have a picture hanging in our hallway where we did some Photoshop, and we're grateful to have partnerships with Livermore and other allied agencies to help cover the city. We do it early in the morning when our call volume is generally lower, but we have folks come in, cover dispatch and cover the city, and then we pay them back at an appropriate point in time.
Swain, can you give us a general idea as to the amount of crimes that are committed by residents of Pleasanton versus outside of Pleasanton?
Yeah, that's a great question. The crimes that happen by Pleasanton residents versus non-Pleasanton residents. In terms of number of crimes committed, I don't know the answer to that, because if someone goes to Stone Ridge and steals something and we don't catch them, right, we don't know what city that person was from. What I do know is of the number of arrests that we make, 75% of the folks that we arrest are non-Pleasanton residents. We're now collecting, per state law, we're collecting stop data. So whenever we stop someone, the officer fills out a form about that person's kind of demographic profile to understand what our stop data looks like. And I know that on our calls for service, because we fill them out for a call for service or a self-initiated activity, that our calls for service show more disparity than our self-initiated activity in terms of disparity based on race.
So I love in British detective shows, whenever there's a crime, they say, well, let's check CCTV, and they see the guy coming out and stuff. How many cameras do we have in Pleasanton, and also commercial cameras that you have access to in Nest, and how does all that play out here?
Yeah, no, cameras are becoming a really important part in our investigative role. The city of Pleasanton does not have any cameras. I shouldn't say any, has few, maybe less than 5 that are recorded. And those are usually done through a third party. So there are no Pleasanton owned cameras throughout the city, like a traffic intersection or whatever, that are recorded or they can be used for situational awareness. We have them for traffic, but not for overall security. In terms of private cameras, whether it's at a shopping center or a home or Ring camera, Nest camera, etc., those are all over town. You can't go into a shopping center today without being on camera. And we use those cameras effectively in our investigation. In fact, those cameras were helpful in helping us understand what happened with the murder of Blake Mose.
Ring cameras are getting popular. Is that an effective way? Also, the ring?
Any camera can capture any. The camera has the potential to capture stuff that you don't even know it's valuable until you do your investigation. Yeah. And I've seen investigations where there are very heinous crimes, and neighborhood ring cameras help plot the path of the suspect walking through that particular neighborhood. So yeah, we use cameras whenever we can.
As you know, Kenya has had a problem with their police department.
What does Pleasanton do to vet candidates, and what do you think could be done to improve the vetting process?
Yeah, so the question there was about Antioch and the tie back to Pleasanton, and I thank you for that question, and I certainly share that same concern. We have a very strict vetting process, as I'm sure Antioch does as well. And how we vet candidates is only one part of preventing that from happening in our department and in our community. The way we really do that is to our supervisors and the culture that we set in our organization, the expectations we have in our organization. So, for example, after the murder in Nashville by those officers, I can't think of the gentleman's name. I want to say Tyree Nichols, but I could be wrong. At any rate, we had conversations with our folks, and we said, where does this happen? Right? How does this happen in this department? And the reality is, what happens in those incidences of misconduct, it doesn't happen overnight, right? It happens over a period of time. And the analogy of a frog in water, right? And, that we know there that the frog will jump out if it was hot water, but when it's slowly turned up, the frog stays in because they're used to it. Is we hold a line we draw a line very early about what is acceptable and not acceptable conduct. And that's how we prevent that from happening here in Pleasanton.
Back to cameras. Do all the officers wear cameras? And if so, when do they kick on? And after that, would you go into Urban Shield and
well, I can't speak to Urban Shield because I wasn't here when we had Urban Shield. But the sheriff's office does have a SWAT fitness challenge that they host every year. In terms of our cameras, all of our officers have body-worn cameras. Those cameras are turned on by the officer, and they buffer for 30 seconds. So if I turn my camera on, it's going to pick up everything those 30 seconds prior, and then go forward. And the cameras turn on if a weapon is drawn. If I draw my firearm, every camera within a certain within a Bluetooth radius, if you would, is going to activate if not already on. If I pull my taser and activate my taser, same thing's going to happen. So we have policy that we enforce, and we have a technology that helps us ensure cameras are on. And
how does the camera know to come on when your gun comes out?
through signal, just Bluetooth technology. It's crazy, I know.
It's in the
so anyway, so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. In terms of emergency preparedness, obviously we have to be ready for anything. Fires, as you saw on the ridge. I remember walking out of Rotary last year, right? Look up on the hillside, and the ridge is on fire. That's a clue that something wrong is going on, right? And so that can happen anytime. We live in a wild urban interface. We have earthquakes, floods that we saw this last year. So it's an ongoing. There's a question back, Steve.
First of all, I think the reports are outstanding. We are really proud to be a part of working with you and all that you're doing. At the same time, I live over on the side. There's a lot of first generation families. I'm a part of their WhatsApp or the WeChat channel. I see lots of dialogue, and you get a sense of a lot of nervousness about incidents that they're reading about or maybe seeing. And so my question is, what sort of liaison work do you do with those communities to ensure that you're with them, you're working with them, and that they're not alone?
We had a there you go. There. All right, we're there. We had a Zoom last week. So first off, so your question's important, and Pleasanton has changed a lot over the years. Obviously prior to my arrival here, and it continues to grow in different ways, and diversity increases. We had a meeting last Wednesday, put together or coordinated by one of our community advisory board members. And we were able to host a Zoom call with members of our Indian community. And we're always looking for ways to outreach. So probably one of our biggest areas of potential growth is to create and develop and strengthen relationships with various groups here in Pleasanton. And so if you have opportunities for that, please let us know. Well, lots of questions here. You know, back for a while.
How is your department staff? Do you have enough officers?
Sure. Yeah, I thought I must not have included that slide in there. I meant to. So thank you for asking the question. Staffing is our biggest challenge right now. And it is in our profession, but more uniquely here in Pleasanton, it is because we're seeing things we haven't seen before, where officers are doing 3, 4, 5, 7 years here and then leaving to go somewhere else. Maybe they're leaving the area for housing, maybe leaving the area for quality of life, different reasons. And the number of officers coming in is challenging. We interviewed 110 officer candidates last year and hired 10. So we interviewed 110 and hired 10. And that's typical in our profession. There are fewer people that are interested in joining the ranks of law enforcement. The nobility of the work, with some of the things that have happened in the media, has certainly become less attractive. But it's still a great job, but it's one of the biggest challenges we face. So right now we have about 7 vacancies, and we have 8 people out on injury. 83 sworn, so it's almost 18% or so of our department, and that impacts our ability to do stuff. Our traffic unit is mothballed, there is collapse into patrol. Our special enforcement unit is collapsed into investigations. Those resources that we normally have to attack crime in different ways, and community safety, especially traffic safety, that we just don't have at our disposal right now. Second, Bob, yeah.
I was reading about the crime prediction software, and they are using in Santa Cruz, I think. What is your opinion about it?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. It's called Predpol. They use predictive analytics. It started in Santa Cruz. My prior agency, I brought it there. Chief Spiller brought it here to Pleasanton. I know Predpol has taken some hits in the press about some of their algorithms. What I will say is this: is that it's a difficult program to launch in a smaller agency, because a lot of our officers are familiar with crime and crime trends, and the program requires officers to be in a 500 square foot box for 15 minutes every 2 or 3 hours, and it's difficult, one, to do that, and secondly, we all have different drivers in law enforcement, and it's a program that it's great conceptually, but it's just difficult, especially in a smaller agency like ours. Yeah, Bob.
Do you have signing bonuses like the sheriff's department's $15,000 or a signing bonus?
You don't have signing bonuses. The city of Alameda has a $75,000.
I heard that. 75,000.
75 grand. It's paid basically up front with a 5-year commitment. We attract a lot of lateral candidates, officers from other agencies. What I have seen in talking to my colleagues is that signing bonuses don't really move the needle. There's another agency in our county that has struggled with retention. They have a 30 or 35% vacancy rate right now, and they're one of the highest paid. It's not about money. Where I struggle the most with signing bonuses is we've hired a lot of laterals, and if you were to offer someone now $25,000 starting tomorrow, then what about the guy I just hired 6 months ago, or the guy I hired 3 months ago? Then it's just not needed right now. Yeah, Ricky.
Chief Sway, you said earlier, I did quick math, it's about 1 out of 10 applicants or maybe higher. What's the biggest? Is it physical limitations? What are the biggest reasons that they're falling out?
Yeah, sure. To get to the hiring board, you have to pass the physical test. And so the number one reasons why people are not hired is they don't pass the background, they don't interview well, they need to refine their interview skills. They don't pass the interview. And then secondly, they don't pass the background. They've done things that they maybe shouldn't have or should have told us that they did, that we learn about in the background investigation, and they get disqualified for that. That's a part of the question about Antioch, right? And holding the line on quality. That's all a part of that conversation, is making sure that we're thorough in our background investigations and identify potential problems in advance.
So can you speak about the department's mental health program to support the office?
Sure. Yeah, we have so thank you for that. Mental health awareness is a really important topic. We have a really strong peer support program. The city has invested considerably in resources for mental health through peer support. We have a clinician available to us at any time of the day, available to our officers and other support staff any time of the day for a certain number of sessions a year, free of charge, outside of what they can get through their own healthcare provider. So it's a strong program. That being said, still in our profession, we lose more officers to suicide than we do any other manner of death, like car accidents or gunfire combined. So it's an issue that we take seriously and that we're really watchful for.
So as part of the younger demographic that struggles with trusting the police, I'm different. I come from a law enforcement family, so it's in my blood. I get it. What are you guys doing for de-escalation training? Because that's, I think, one of the major concerns and fears of my peers is not understanding why what happens on the news happens. And then they see the badge and fear it because they don't understand what type of training for de-escalation you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. You've opened up a great door for me to walk through with that answer. Yeah, so we do a lot of de-escalation training, whether it's our force options simulator, whether it's baked into our other training on force options training, or as part of our crisis intervention training. So we do a lot in that space. And the term de-escalation is really common, and our officers practice de-escalation. But some people think of de-escalation as a verb and not a noun, right? Like, I'm going to de-escalate you, right? It doesn't just happen like that, right? What does de-escalation requires? Well, it requires someone to accept the gift of de-escalation and to participate in being de-escalated.
Absolutely.
Right? And sometimes that's lost. It's lost. Well, the officer should be able just to de-escalate somebody. And sometimes the person's either mental health status or alcohol or drugs, whatever on board, inhibits their ability to participate in de-escalation.
Sure.
And so, so we do a lot of training around it. We have different tools that we can use to for de-escalation that are non-lethal tools. And at the same time, we try and take time, give distance, all those types of things to help facilitate de-escalation. And at the end of the day, it's up to both parties to participate in that process.
And I guess my question was more at what non-lethal use are we doing? Which
Sure.
you totally.
Yeah, we have a taser, all officers carry tasers. We just rolled out a 40 millimeter impact weapon system, which is designed to it's pain compliance, as well as other tools that are available to us.
Thank you.
Yes, Steve.
Hey, Chief, there's been a lot of media coverage over chokeholds, and there was just one, I think, that happened in the subway in New York by a military person, young man that tried to stop somebody. What's the department's policy on that, and can you explain that at all to us?
Sure. We refer to the chokehold as a carotid restraint. Well, there's actually two different types of holds. The carotid restraint is one thing. That a chokehold is something different. It's never been an authorized restraint device. After the murder of George Floyd, we temporarily suspended the use of the carotid restraint because we weren't using it that frequently. And then later, and we also knew there was legislation in place to ban it statewide. That legislation back in 2021, I believe, or 2020 was successful and signed by the governor. And so the carotid restraint is no longer an authorized hold for policing in California. All right, so hey, thank you. Thank you all. Don't forget, so we're May 4th today. The week of May 15th is National Police Week. And more importantly, Monday, May 15th is National Police Officer Memorial Day. It's a day to honor the men and women who served in this profession throughout the years, who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community. So May 15th, don't forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, opportunity drawn.
Your way. So we got $76. I know you're ready to pick a winner here. Hold on, take it for me, please. Could you read it out? Because I love my glasses.
It is 083782.
Yeah. All right.
This is why the first time. Yeah. Oh.
One more guy.
Yeah, double it.
083799.
799. Oh, Bert.
799.
799.
799.
799.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, everyone, thank you all for attending the meeting. So we'll see you Saturday, John Lumen, 8 o'clock, Senior Center on Central Boulevard. Thank you all, we'll see you Saturday morning.